guys, what's up? It's Levy and welcome to today's video. I am so excited to be sharing my top 5 books I read this summer with you guys today. I also want to introduce myself since this is my first video. I am a creative writing major focusing in poetry, and I'm so excited to be getting an English degree. Reading for me is something that I have been just completely in love with for my entire life. I didn't know how to read when I went into kindergarten and got put in a bunch of supplementary reading courses. And through those courses, I really at a young age just fell in love with stories and never stopped. And I can't wait to share my thoughts and my opinions with you guys. To commemorate this day, by the way, I am wearing my Reading is Sexy t-shirt, and I saw this for the first time, I think, on Pinterest, and I'm obsessed with it. So there's that. And now all of a sudden I'm nervous to talk on camera, so that's new and frightening, but we're gonna get over it. Anyway, I read so many good books this summer, and I posted a lot of them on my book Instagram, so that will be in the description if you guys want to follow it. But other than that, I can't believe I was able to narrow down to 5, and these 5 books are really solid. One of them was a reread, and the rest of them are brand new to me, and I can't wait to talk to you guys about them. So let's just go ahead and dive in. Okay guys, so the first book in my top 5 books of summer 2023 is My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Oteza Moshfegh. I definitely recommend looking up the trigger warnings before we read this one. It is a little intense, but the writing was so captivating. I felt like I was in the body of our main character, and it was literally being entranced. It was superb. It covers a lot of really interesting topics, like depression and substance abuse, and it really takes us into the mind of a woman who's just tired. The idea of, hibernating for a year is it's just so it's fascinating to see someone sort of going through the motions of deciding to make that choice and the reasons why, and how our life sometimes can feel so out of our control that we just don't want to have to handle it anymore. For a while, it's like taking an extreme break. All of us can relate in the sense of having moments of wanting to retreat and enclose ourselves in our space and not be around anyone and handle what's going on in our mind. And this is just a super extreme version of that feeling, and it's written phenomenally well, and I could not believe it when I was done. I was just it blew my mind. Next book I have to share with you guys is a reread, and it's one of my favorite books of all time. It is Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar. I reread this, I think, was it beginning of August maybe? I don't remember exactly when I reread this. I can go look it up. But this book is so... Sylvia Plath's writing, I'm about to cry thinking about it. It's ridiculous how emotionally connected I am to Sylvia Plath, and I always have been. And this body of work, oh my god. I'm really about to cry in my first video. That's lovely. If you read the kind of books I read, that it does happen. Okay guys, the next book I have is a reread, and it's one of my favorite books of all time. I love this book. I reread it every couple of years, and every time it like hits me in my soul in a way that is so shocking and powerful, and like it's truly an amazing book by one of my favorite authors, and that is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. Every time I talk about this book, I start to get a little misty-eyed, so I'm sorry if I look like I'm gonna cry, but this book is following Esther Greenwood, who is a talented writer, and she is successful and has gotten scholarships and done all of these things, and it chronicles her going through a breakdown and all of the emotions behind that, and the way that, you know, someone can begin to really, really horribly struggle, and navigating through that, and the whole time we're sort of wondering like how far is this gonna go? What's gonna happen to Esther? How is Esther gonna grapple with this, you know, breakdown that she's going through? And as someone who has struggled with mental health in the past, it really feels so honest and authentic and raw. I want to read a little excerpt from page 2 of the book, just so you guys can sort of see where I'm coming from when I say that this book is written so powerfully. It just gets better from here. This is from page 2, and I really think that this is just the perfect representation of lines to the start of this amazing narrative that we're being given and the way it's presented. I was supposed to be having the time of my life. I was supposed to be the envy of thousands of other college girls just like me all over America who wanted nothing more than to be tripping about in those same size 7 patent leather shoes I'd bought in Bloomingdale's one lunch hour, with a black patent leather belt and black patent leather pocketbook to match. And when my picture came out in the magazine the 12 of us were working on, drinking martinis in a skimpy imitation silver lame bodice stuck onto a big, fat cloud of white tulle on some starlight roof, in the company of several anonymous young men with all-American bone structures hired or loaned for the occasion, everybody would think I must be having a real whirl. Look what can happen in this country, they'd say. A girl lives in the same out-of-the-way town for 19 years, so poor she can't afford a magazine, and then she gets a scholarship to college and wins a prize here and a prize there, and ends up steering New York like her own private car. Only I wasn't steering anything, not even myself. I just bumped from my hotel to work and to parties, and from parties to my hotel and back to work like a numb trolley bus. I guess I should have been excited the way most of the other girls were, but I couldn't get myself to react. I felt very still and very empty, the way the eye of a tornado must feel, moving dully along in the middle of the surrounding hullabaloo. Can we just take a second? Like, oh my god. This is a perfect book. Again, please look up the trigger warnings before you read it, but I would venture to say this is like not even top 5 of this summer, but top 5 favorite books of all time. And I am so happy I got the privilege of reading it again this summer, and I hope you guys consider picking it up. The next book I have for you guys is a book that I was so excited to read. It had been recommended so much on BookTube and, you know, Instagram and from friends, and so many people were telling me to read this book. It is Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellers, and truthfully, I just thought this book was just wonderful. For me, it was a little bit slower paced. I think I chose incorrectly by reading this during a book slump. If I had been a little bit more in my typical sort of love of reading literary mind, I think I would have enjoyed it even more. But I really did love this book. It follows Cleo and Frank, and Cleo is British, living in America. Frank is considerably, I think he's, oh man, how many years older is he? They have a considerable age gap going on, and Frank is this, CEO, or is he? He's like the head of a magazine. I don't know if he's the CEO of it or not. I can't remember. But he's the head of the magazine. He's very well off. And essentially, Cleo and Frank get married because Cleo's visa is about to expire. And they get married in a very short amount of time, and they are in love, but we sort of see how the impact of meeting someone and falling in love and getting married so quickly. Sometimes, there are cases where that works out as well, but sometimes you miss the opportunity to experience all of a person and really learn about them and who they are deeper than the surface, and the problems that can come from marrying someone you don't know very well. And this book, again, please look up the trigger warnings. I definitely recommend that for this one. We deal with alcoholism and depression, and how those two things within one household sort of really become like extremely problematic for everyone involved. The other thing I absolutely loved about this book in particular is the absolute slew of side characters that we get, and how well all of their stories are represented within the book. I feel like there's a good even amount. I feel like if there had been any more side characters added, I would have felt really overwhelmed. But each character really did serve a purpose in driving the story forward, and I think that really matters, and how this story comes together. This is really good, and I really, really liked it, and I hope that everyone gets a chance to read a book like this. Another book I absolutely loved reading this summer is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I could not believe I'd never read this. I felt like I would have come across it before, but I just didn't. And I'm very, very glad I've read it now. If you've never read a classic before, I feel like this is pretty sound place to start. Picture of Dorian Gray. Wild ride, pun intended, and Dorian Gray is a piece of work, man. You really don't like the guy when you finish the book. And I think that's okay. I like having characters that kind of suck sometimes. I was so enthralled by the storytelling and what was happening that actually felt like a plot device. It felt like something that was really important, was to sort of say, yeah, Dorian kind of sucks, and you're gonna find out what happens to people who suck. And that was the book, and it was really good. So yeah, but beyond that, beyond the fact that I didn't like Dorian, I love Oscar Wilde. This writing, oh my god, like every page there's a quote that's just incredible. Also, these covers, these are my favorite. These are from Union Square & Co. Their Signature Classic series has like these insanely good covers that have flaps in the paperback so you can bookmark your page, and I love that. The last book I read this summer was so good is Outline by Rachel Cusk. I read this in a matter of hours. It is a masterclass in writing. There's so much, which is funny because the main character is teaching a writing class, But it's so smart. I literally have never read anything quite like it. We follow the main character who is in Athens for a week teaching a writing workshop. We find out that she is recently divorced and very few other real details about her life, because instead of telling us anything about what happens to her, we see the communication she's having with other people. So we hear, about her neighbor on an airplane telling her about, or telling the main character about his life. And then we hear about, the people in her classroom talking about their lives and her friends in Athens and what's going on with them. And all throughout it, you're just enthralled and you can't put it down. And there's these amazing snippets of such profound thinking. Don't know that I've ever read a book that could be so profound and so condensed and so soft and sort of effortless in its writing style. Of course, Rachel Cusk definitely put effort into this, but when reading it, you're so engrossed in it that it doesn't take any effort to read. It's a seamless read. This novel is mesmerizing. That's from Elaine Blair of The New Yorker. Quietly radical, ingenious. That is from Megan O'Grady from Vogue. And quiet is the word I keep coming back to for this book. It doesn't punch you in the face, but it gives you these moments where you're just like, yeah, that's really huge. That's a really big statement you just made, and I really believe you when you make it, but it's not abrupt or hard. It's very calm. And I love this book. So those are my 5 favorite reads of the summer. I wish I had annotated this so I could pull some fragments of information from you. I'll probably reread it and annotate it at some point. Okay, guys, those are my 5 favorite books I read this summer. They are incredible, groundbreaking, completely, I still think about them daily, and I can't wait for you guys to read them. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day and that you enjoyed this video. If you want to keep watching, feel free to subscribe. This is my first video, so I'm definitely still working out the kinks, but I hope you guys will stick around and talk about books with me in the future. Have a great day. Bye. Seven patent leather shoes I'd bought at Bloomingdale's, 1 hour lunch hour. No, we're gonna do this one more time. I cannot fucking read because I'm about to cry.